The sun is shining and it is putting me into a good mood solely because of that reason. I read in a sunbeam over the weekend like a cat. I lounged on my floor just to lay in the sunbeam and it was fantastic. Let's wrap up March. So this month was a little different for me. I did move, so I'm in a new place. Whoa. I did move, so I didn't have as much time to read, but the end of the month has been really productive for me reading-wise. I ended up reading 11 books this month, and I'm in the middle of kind of three. I've kind of put it aside for a while. I might finish one more. I am filming this a few days before the end of March, so if I do end up finishing that one, I will just include it in April's wrap up because I don't want to wait. So the first book that I kicked off the month with was Addiction by Ivy Smoke, and I think this is what put me into a slump at the beginning of this month. It was not only moving, it was this book. I'm so confused on if I actually liked Temptation now, because I really did not like this book. I maybe liked the last 30% of it, but I just was not a fan of this one. It did not work. Penny was so grating on my nerves in this one. She could not make a decision to save her life. Every time I thought, I'm like, Penny, make a decision and stick with it. And then I'm like, she did, we're gonna move forward in this. She just took 2 steps right back and I was about to rip my hair out with her. Professor Hunter, I still like him, but again, he's not necessarily my favorite anymore. I think it's by association, I'm getting annoyed with him as well. And I do still not get how Tyler is even in consideration / even a friend when we were literally introduced to this character when he almost assaulted Penny. And now I'm just supposed to believe that she might want to be in a romantic relationship with him. It's a no from me. The writing too, I don't know why the writing in this one bothered me so much compared to the first one. And really just overall, this book just annoyed me, if you can't tell. So I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. And I did start the second book, or the third book, because I have a problem. When I start a series, I can't not finish it, especially if it's following one single couple. And with it, I need to see how Penny and Professor Hunter's relationship plays out. But right now, I don't want to get back into this series. So I am taking a slight break. I'm 7% into the third book, but I am pulling myself back a bit and getting a bit of a Penny break because she's just really trying my patience. After Addiction, I just took a dark turn for the month and I was just in a dark mood. So I read Steel Princess and Twisted Kingdom, but we'll talk about Steel Princess first by Rena Kent. These are books 2 and 3, and I think it's the Royal Elite series. I loved this book. I ended up giving it 5 out of 5. I liked it more than the first. I really was just interested in where Aiden and Elsa's relationship was going, and this was a book that I loved because it had romance there, but it had plot and it had suspense, and it just had a lot going for it. I thought the writing was strong. I think the character group is strong. There are seeds being planted in my head, and it's kind of hard to differentiate this book and now Twisted Kingdom because I did read them both back to back, so it almost just feels like one giant book. But I did really like how Aiden and Elsa's relationship evolved in this one, and then at the end, that little plot twist, did not see that coming. A quick spoil something, so if you want jump ahead 30 seconds. I hate when characters that you think are dead come back from the dead. Actually in this, I didn't really mind it. It actually kind of worked for the story, so I'm not mad at it. I didn't dock any stars for it. It's still not my favorite, but it did kind of work. So then in the third book, Twisted Kingdom, I also ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I did not like the epilogue. I am just not a fan of epilogues, especially when they jump ahead and they're oh look, they're pregnant. I don't need it. Leave the story as is and let me imagine where they are. So I did not love that. But the book as a whole, I thought was a really satisfying kind of closure to Aiden and Elsa, but then also an introduction for other characters. I thought it was really satisfying. Aiden and Elsa's dynamic in this one even more so when she was pissed at him. She was fuck you. And I actually really appreciated that, and she hung on to that for long enough that it seemed realistic, but not so long that I got annoyed where I'm we know you're gonna end up together, just give up already. So it was that perfect balance that I loved. I thought the backstory of how Aiden and Elsa actually know each other was heartbreaking, but also just fit really well. And this book was just great. Again, the steam was there, the romance was there, the plot was there, the characters were there. This series just really worked for me. So I'm very excited to read more. And I was just in a dark bully mood, so this kind of fit perfectly. My favorites for this month. So I had read the Born in Blood Chronicles last year, all but the very last book, which is like Bound by the Past, which is Dante and Valentina's second book, because I had picked that one up and then it said like go back and read the Camorra Chronicles before you read this. And I just pushed it off. I wasn't really in a mafia mood, and I have to be in the mood to read mafia. I can't just read it for like the sake of reading it. But an inkling hit me and I was like, I want some mafia in my life. So I started the Camorra Chronicles. So the first one is Twisted Loyalties. This is Fabiano's story from the Born in Blood Chronicles. He is Aria, Gianna, and Liliana's youngest brother. So this one follows him and Leona. You do still get little inklings of the New York Mafia and Chicago, but this one does primarily take place in Vegas. And I loved it. 5 out of 5. Everything that I wanted. I loved Fabi. He was like, again, he's the bad guy, but he has a soft spot for Leona, and it just worked. I loved the introduction of the Falcones and just Las Vegas in general. Leona, she has like nothing to do with the mafia, so she's like an outsider, which I liked. I liked that for once we got an outsider in the world, because we have not gotten that so far. But then in Twisted Emotions with Nino and Chiara, so Nino is Remo's younger brother, like his right-hand man, and Remo's obviously the capo of Las Vegas. And so they need to arrange some sort of truce with New York in order to kind of have like some peace with them to go against Chicago, because New York doesn't like Chicago, Las Vegas doesn't like Chicago, so they're like kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. So they make this like tentative truce with Luca, and I was just like, thank you, give me more Luca content. And so Luca gives one of his nieces, Chiara, into an arranged marriage with Nino. And I really liked Chiara. There is a trigger warning for this one for sexual assault. Chiara was assaulted by her uncle when she was younger because her father was a traitor. So he then thought that that gave him the right to assault Chiara. No. So Chiara's like worried that when she gets married to him, that it's very important in the mafia circle that women remain pure until their marriage, which we're not even gonna dive into my thoughts on that, but it's how it is in this world. And so Chiara is given to Nino, but then on their wedding night, she is like terrified, and rightly so. And Nino is like, what's wrong? And she discloses what happens. So Nino turns around, calls up Remo, calls up Luca, and goes and just basically skins her uncle alive and like tortures the shit out of him. Him, Remo, and Luca all do. And I was like, this is what I'm here for. The three of them, I'm just like, yes, please. Then Chiara goes back to Las Vegas with Nino, and their relationship kind of develops, but Nino can't feel emotions, which made this like so interesting to read, how he processes things because he's so analytical about everything. It just made for a very interesting dual perspective, and obviously their relationship evolves. I really loved this one. I think this one was my favorite so far that I've read. And then I read the third one, which is Twisted Pride, which is Remo and Serafina. I was so looking forward to Remo because I'm like, this dude is crazy, like absolutely crazy. How is this gonna work? And it did. It was so good. Serafina is part of the Chicago outfit. She is Dante's niece, and she is getting married. And on her wedding day, Remo literally kidnaps her and takes her to Las Vegas. So this one is a little controversial because she is like his captive for a month or so before he releases her, and then other stuff happens, whatever. So it is a little controversial. I will just say it here, like if it's not your thing, don't read it. I know like even mafia isn't everyone's thing. Don't read it if you want to. I enjoyed it, and here's a little blurb about it. So Serafina gets taken, and her and Remo are just like explosive. Serafina is a bad bitch. I will just say that. She has a spine, which is not necessarily rare to find in the mafia stories, but coming off of Chiara being like a very timid character, it was just like a huge juxtaposition to Serafina, where she is like, bam, bam. I don't know. Serafina was fun. And I really love this book. I can't really say much without giving anything away, so I'll just leave it at that. Give Remo a chance. It's great. So far, I'm loving the Camorra Chronicles. Oh, we got another doozy. I think I gave this a 3 on, I might have given it a 2 on Goodreads. And that is Gabriel's Rapture by Sylvan Reinhard, or Reynard, whatever. Honestly, I don't care. Where to even start with this? I love student teacher books, and these were kind of like the end all be all student teacher books hyped up to me, and I was not necessarily that impressed with the first one. But it kind of ended in a way that I was like, I feel like the second one's going to be better. And also, as I said with the Temptation, the like Hunter series, I can't stop when it's following one couple, but I think I'm gonna stop with this one. So Gabriel's Rapture is book 2, and it was just not it. I did even listen to it on audiobook because I got the physical copy of it and I was like, I can't even bring myself to read this. So I listened to it, and I don't know if audiobooks are the best medium for me, so yes, it could have been that, but also it was just the story. Julia, that's her name? I don't even know. And I literally don't even care. I don't really have much to say about this book, except that I just didn't like it, and it was just annoying and pretentious, and I don't think I'm going to read the third. Actually, it's not even, I don't think, I'm not going to read the third book. I am just going to probably watch the movie on Passion Flix. I've never even watched anything off of there, but I know that these are on there, and I think that's how I'm going to consume the third book's material, because I can't sit through another audiobook of this, and I cannot read another book of this. So then the other kind of like dud for me this month was The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I gave this one 3 out of 5 because, again, it's not like a bad book. It's not poorly written. It just was not for me. I was really interested in the premise of it. So it follows Lena, who was left at the altar literally by her fiance, Andrew. And the one who delivered the message that he was not going to be coming on their wedding day to Lena was Max, who is Andrew's younger brother. And let's just say the brothers don't get along, but we don't really get, like, we get some backstory, but I don't really, like, feel the anger that Max has for his brother. Like, it didn't make me feel any sort of emotion. But then anyways, Lena and Max end up working together for, like, a wedding planning pitch. So they have to work closely together. And it kind of goes from there. I liked the whole premise. I liked the setup. I liked Lena. Max was fine. He wasn't anything special. The book just fell flat. It had like cute parts, but I think one thing for me is traditionally published romance is not my favorite, unless if you're like Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert or The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Those are kind of like my 2 tried and trues. That besides that, I haven't really found like a huge hit. So I think part of it could be that. I didn't like how, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there was like a bit of a take back on a major plot point. And I was like, then what was literally the point of this? Like, just to be like, hee hee, just kidding. That bothers me, and that didn't happen until the very end. The reveal of like Max and Lena's relationship was just so anticlimactic. There was really no real stakes in it because everything just worked out fine, and I don't know, I did really think that Lena's culture representation was great and her family dynamics were really great, and I found myself really enjoying the chapters where her family and like her cousin and her assistant were around. Like, those were a lot of fun. But when it came to Max and Lena specifically, it just kind of fell flat for me. Their banter died off the second that they decided they wanted to bone, and even that was like not that great. I didn't really get why they wanted to be together. I didn't really get why they were attracted to each other, except for the fact that it was like a taboo kind of fun thing because she had been engaged to his brother. Like, there wasn't really any reason I felt that I'm like, I want these 2 characters together. So it was just it just fell kind of flat for me, unfortunately. So now to my 2 physical books that I read. So I read Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. And I have a full reading vlog on this that is actually going to be up on Friday. So this is going up on Wednesday. That's gonna be up on Friday. So you can check out more of my thoughts there. But I did end up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I like Six of Crows better than Crooked Kingdom. Which is kind of surprising because Crooked Kingdom is very like character driven, where Six of Crows I thought was like very plot driven. And I think I just wasn't initially expecting that for this book, but once I adjusted my expectations and mindset about like halfway through, being like, oh, there's not going to be like this really big action sequence. It's going to be like smaller things here and there. Then I ended up enjoying it a lot more. It did make me cry, which I love crying in books. So Inej and Kaz, once again, literal supremacy of the two of them. They're incredible, and I'm so excited for the Shadow and Bone show and to see some of the crows in it. I think it's gonna be great. And yeah, for more of my like full thoughts, you can check out that reading vlog. And for my book club, over the past like couple of months, we've been reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This was my pick for it. I might be biased, but I think that this was a pretty great pick. I loved this book. I thought it was so beautifully well written. There was so many like avenues to explore in this book. Like literally V. Schwab could have gone anywhere, like spanning history, spanning places, time. There was just so much that could have been done. And so for that, I'm like, I almost need a second book just of Addie like trapezing through the world. But for what we got, I'm really happy. I loved Henry's character. I did love Luke. When he showed up and took Beethoven's soul, I was like, it's the toxic trait in me that is like, the more powerful and the more villainous and the more toxic that a character is, the more I want them on page. So I don't want to spoil literally anything about this book because I wasn't spoiled going into it, and I feel like that is the best way to go with it. So in case you haven't heard of this book before, so Addie makes a deal with the devil in like the 1700s that to get out of an arranged marriage, she just wants freedom, and the devil kind of twists that and grants her the ability to live forever, but be forgotten by everyone that she meets. So she can't like own a home, she can't have friends, she doesn't have family, because literally anytime like she passes through a door or something, they forget her. So it's just a really interesting premise. And then one day in New York in 2014, she meets someone who remembers her. So that's all I'm gonna say. I did cry in this again. And as I said with Crooked Kingdom, I love crying in books, and this definitely delivered. It made me think about life a lot, which I didn't love, but also I needed. Okay, and then last book on my list is Second Semester by QB Tyler. So this is the second one in like the semester series, or like Campus Tales or something, I don't know. It can be read as a standalone. I honestly wouldn't have needed to read the first book in order to read this one. So this one is a dad's best friend trope. The first one is a student teacher trope, which I still like the first one better. I would give this one like 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. Just this is so insta-lovey, which is not my favorite, but with the page length, like I kind of knew that's what I was getting when I was getting into it. And that's kind of what I felt like I needed, just like a quick book to kind of get out of a bit of a slump. And so I did appreciate it for that. But like, will it be one of my all-time favorites? No. So this follows Serena, who is interning at her father's law firm, where she meets, what even is his name? I can't remember the dude's name. Oh, Landon, where she meets Landon, who is her dad's like partner in his law firm. And Landon is just known as being like a man-ho around the office. He sleeps with all the paralegals. So Serena's dad is very like, stay away from my daughter. There's a bit of an age gap. Serena is 21 and Landon is like 40 something. Age gap doesn't bother me. I love an age gap. If it's not your thing, I get it. It's not for everyone. Just don't read it. I think if it would have been like strung out a bit more and we would have gotten more into like Serena's relationship with her dad and more into Landon's relationship, just with like women in general and dealing with his divorce and his son, I think that would have been a bit better. But I mean, that's not really the purpose of it. It was meant to be just like a short, quick, I think it's like 200 pages, just a short, quick, fun read. And that's definitely what I got. So yeah, I liked it. So that I think covers everything that I read this month. So Crooked Kingdom reading vlog is going to be up in a couple of days, or obviously if you're watching this a few days later, it's already up there, so you can check that out. And I'm gonna have some more reading vlogs coming up, some of like TikTok popular books. I'm gonna be doing like a whole Penelope Douglas catalog reread. And anyways, like I said, I never know how to end these. So see ya.